As Europe was becoming more secularized, there was a gradual suppression of divine right rule throughout Europe. Now enlightened absolutism began taking over as divine right was dying out. This idea emerged during the 18th century, developed by philosophers. This was the idea of natural rights, which means that people have certain rights that cannot be taken away from one. Some of these rights include freedom of speech, religious worship, or the press. Enlightened absolutism also stated that most people needed direction provided by an enlightened ruler. This law also limited noble participation in government. According to the time period, absolute monarchies limited the nobility's participation in governance, but preserved the aristocracy's social position and legal privileges. These rulers were to give people their natural rights, and they must also be familiar with the arts, sciences, and education. The most important thing was that they were also to obey the law and enforce it. This is different from divine rulers in that these rulers are not above the law, but there is an equality among everyone to follow the rules. These rulers also believed that any form of reform should come from them and not from the people, because they didn't trust the people and felt that they, as rulers, would make the right reforms for everyone. According to the time period, during the 18th century, a number of states in Eastern and Central Europe experimented with enlightened absolutism, as you will see in the rulers we will discuss. Frederick the Great was the absolute monarch from Prussia, starting from 1740. This man heavily enforced enlightened absolutism ideals onto his subjects. He established the first German code of law as well as an establishment of religious tolerance. He also granted freedom of the press as well as heavy military reforms. This man centralized the government and encouraged industry to support the army. He also promoted immigration and improved the education. These reforms all led to Prussia becoming a very strong nation, making this nation a major power in Europe during the time. According to the time period, as a result of the Holy Roman Empire's limitation of sovereignty in the Peace of Westphalia, Prussia rose to power, and the Habsburgs, who were centered in Austria, shifted their empire eastward. There was an ongoing issue on whether Silesia was going to be given to Prussia or whether she could inherit her kingdom. When Maria Theresa of Austria inherited the throne, the Habsburg dynasty weakened. She wanted to centralize the government, promote commerce, and limit the power of the nobles. These reforms were then furthered on when her son Joseph inherited the throne. He guaranteed freedom of the press and religion, improved the equality towards all social classes through their judicial system, made German the official language to centralize the nation, and abolished serfdom. In 1756, Maria Theresa carried out the diplomatic revolution, which reversed the long-standing alliances between the War of Austrian Succession and the 7 Years' War. This meant that now Austria was an ally of France instead of Britain, and Prussia then became an ally of Britain. The 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, was a war that occurred in North America, where it was really a conflict between French and English control in North America. According to the time period, rivalry between Britain and France resulted in world wars fought both in Europe and the colonies, with Britain supplanting France as the greatest European power. It began in 1756 and it later continued until 1763. In 1763, the war ended with the Treaty of Paris. This treaty officially ended the war and stated Great Britain as the winner. France had to give up all of its territories in North America east of the Mississippi River. This resulted in France no longer being a powerful colonizer in America and ended any foreign military threat to the British colonies, making Britain the superpower in North America. Catherine the Great was the absolute monarch for Russia. She began her reign in 1762 after Peter the Great. According to the time period, Peter the Great westernized the Russian state and society, transforming political, religious, and cultural institutions. Catherine the Great continued this process throughout her rule. She wanted to appease the military and church, so she returned the church's land and property that Peter had taken. However, she later made the church part of the state. She believed in absolute rule in Russia and strived to rule with absolutist ideals. This led her to make the Nakaz, which was a document stating how the legal system in Russia should function, outlawing capital punishment and torture. It also stated that all men are equal. She also increased educational opportunities and the arts. She established a boarding school for girls, and free schools were created across Russia. This increased the educational opportunities for more children to be able to get a free education, as well as girls being able to attend school and also receive an education. Catherine was also a very big fan of the arts, and because of this, she ordered for a theater to be built for operas and ballets for people to enjoy. She also expanded Russia's borders by gaining land in Poland. This happened because the Polish monarchy was unable to control the nobles. According to the time period, the Polish monarchy's inability to consolidate its authority over the nobility led to Poland's partition by Prussia, Russia, and Austria, and its disappearance from the map of Europe. This, however, led to a conflict with Turkey in the Ottoman Empire, which resulted in a war. Russia was successful in these wars, which ended up showing how powerful Russia was as a nation. There was later a peace treaty with the Ottoman Empire, which resulted in more acquisition of land in Russia and power to trade in the Black Sea. Russia also took over the Crimean Peninsula, which gave them even more power in the Black Sea. In 1781, the Edicts of Toleration were issued by Joseph II. The edicts granted limited freedom of worship to non-Roman Catholic Christians. It also removed civil disabilities of which they had been previously subject to in Austria, and also maintaining a privileged position for the Catholic Church. The edict also regulated the status of Jews in the Habsburg territories, and it freed them from discriminatory restrictions, making them more equal in the nation.